Will the euro collapse? Some analysts are saying this euro will collapse below 99 euro. Right, at one time it was 142, 144 euro to the dollar, and some were saying it would collapse to 125. This week it collapsed to 119. So there's a lot of worry in Europe that this contagion in Europe will spread, and I'll get back to this. But what are the odds of this all coming together? Now, Matt, if you can show me that slide 1. Right now, this past week, the stock market collapsed quite a few. In the past several weeks, it's collapsed about 1,500 points on the Dow. This week, it's taken a major plunge because this Hungary debt crisis, and of course, you know the Greece debt crisis has caused a lot of worry in the financial markets. Some saying that this contagion in Europe will spread to the United States, and that's why a lot of investors are getting very worried. Hungary, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, their debt rating was lowered, and that caused a lot of panicking in the markets. And on Thursday, Friday, Hungary's situation is getting bad. Now, it's interesting that in Daniel chapter 2, it says that the revived Roman Empire, 5 will be partly strong, 5 will be partly weak. Iron mixed with clay, and of course, iron is strong. So some of the nations in Europe would be strong, some would be very weak. Now, Portugal is a very weak economy now. That's kind of teeter-tottering. Spain's unemployment rate right now, believe it or not, is 20%, over 20%. Italy is on the verge. Italy is on the brink too. It's kind of worrying a lot of financial analysts. And of course, Greece. You saw the problems in Greece, the rioting in the streets. You know, it's interesting that there's so much government subsidies in Greece, and the rioters are a lot of government workers. And again, I don't want to pick on government workers, but the benefits paid to government workers in Greece is so outrageous, and they want more. And they're taking away all of these benefits, and that's why you're seeing a lot of this rioting, because Greece is a financial basket case. It is totally bankrupt. And that contagion will spread. So will this problem actually cause the entire demise of the European Union, or will the antichrist step in and bring about this peace and security and safety and pull Europe together, much like what Hitler did to Germany? When Germany was on the verge of collapse during the 1930s, during the Weimar Republic, when people were wheeling around baskets of money just to pay for a loaf of bread, you know, the savers were really hurt. And as soon as you had money, you had to spend it. You couldn't save money during that time. But Hitler came in and said, I have the answer. I have the answer to your economic problems. So Hitler brought together Germany. And of course, you know what happened during World War II. So is this going to be a period where history is repeated? Well, I'm going to try to address that question on June 20th. But anyway, this is a report that came out in Bible Prophecy today. And it was a message by Angela Merkel, the German chancellor. This is what she told the parliament in Berlin. The Eurozone crisis is the greatest test for the European Union. It is a question of survival, she said. The euro is in danger. If the euro fails, then Europe fails. If we succeed, Europe will be stronger. Mario Draghi, head of the Bank of Italy, said this: at this critical moment, it is vital that we continue to work together on reforming the international financial system. So, you know, there's a lot of concern in the world today of what's going to happen in Europe. Analysts are saying that Europe is in, quote, life support mode. and the euro is fatally wounded and in danger of collapse. Europe is starting to become unglued, and the contagion may spread to the United States. Now, a lot of Americans are saying there's no way. America is a much stronger economy, bigger. But you know what? We're just following the same scenario as Greece. We are $13 trillion in debt and counting. And you know, I was watching the U.S. debt calendar. And do you know, I was following it, I counted the seconds. Every 25 to 30 seconds, our debt goes up $1 million. Every 20 to 25 seconds, up 20. So in a 60-second message from this morning, I figured roughly $120 million just went up in a U.S. debt. And you figure this goes on day after day after day. I mean, it's a serious situation where most of the general public do not grasp the seriousness of the problem. As one analyst says, we have a financial catastrophe on our hands, and we're just printing our way out of it. Because the euro, just recently, the finance ministers, the stock market was crashing, and the finance ministers of Europe stepped in and said, we're going to offer this $1 trillion bailout package for Greece and the other countries. And all of a sudden, the markets turned around and went back up. Well, guess what? No, did every generation have a reason to say that every generation was saying that Jesus Christ is going to return during that time? Now, this is 50 AD, where the Apostle Paul said that, don't worry, you didn't miss the rapture. Christ will not come until there be a falling away first and the man of sin be revealed. So during this time period, I did some research, and really, there were no real strong movements of messages saying that Christ would return until this period right here, 1348, when the Black Death or the bubonic plague killed 25 to 30% of the Europe's population. You probably know that about history. There's some places there's a resurgence of this bubonic plague here. And of course, during the 1500s, Martin Luther thought during the Protestant Reformation, Christ's return was near. And it wasn't until the 1800s that there was real evidence or justification that Christ's return was near, because all of a sudden there was these new cults were being followed, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, and the Christian Science. It was all founded in the 1800s. And of course, there was a war with 1812 with Napoleon and the Spanish-American War. And in 1843, there was this guy named William Miller who had his church say that Christ's coming was be in 1843. And of course, Jesus didn't return in 1843, so he said it'll probably be next year, 1844. Okay, the next slide. So if we were to say that Christ's coming up until the 1800s, because all of the major prophecies had not yet been fulfilled, you could probably say that the odds of Christ's return were a million, billion, trillion to one that he wouldn't return up until the 1800s. From the 1800s to the 1900s, some prophecies are being fulfilled, but not the major ones. So you can say, well, the odds are maybe 100 to 1,000 to 1 that he won't return in that generation or that time period. Now, from the 1900s, right around here, the Spanish flu pandemic killed over 10 million, and the League of Nations was formed after World War I. You can probably say that, hey, we're getting close. The pestilences and the famines and the wars and rumors of wars, this is the first time we had a world war in history. So maybe the odds of his return, maybe it's 100 to 1 that he doesn't come. Now, in the 20s and 30s, they had the stock market crash and the Great Depression, the rise of Hitler, and all of a sudden, the population reaches 2 billion in 1930. From the 1850s, there was only 1 billion. Now it reaches 2 billion. 1940s and 50s. Here is the key right here in the 40s and 50s.